Now, can you guys do you guys see the first
We
page
can see your
there?
presentation. Yep.
You do? Okay, great. All right, we'll get it going. All right, well, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, and my name is Annabelle Pacheco. I am an investor and a real estate broker, been in business for 24 years and part of a global real estate company named eXp Realty. And the goal really for this call is to teach and just share with you guys the steps that I took in purchasing my first multifamily deal, bringing guest speakers from the multifamily space to share with us, pretty much, and just expand our knowledge so that you can go out there and do this for yourselves. I encourage everyone to participate, ask questions. Let's use this platform to just share information with each other and learn from each other. Even though I will be talking a lot, you know what, just ask questions, interrupt, it's okay. If you're thinking, maybe something I'm saying at that moment triggers a question, ask it. And you know what, I can stop and we can talk about it. I'm not selling anything and not offering anything at all. I'm not a financial advisor by no means. I'm just sharing my story and what I've done with everyone. So a little bit about myself. I started in the mortgage industry in the mid 90s. Did a lot of FHA loans, and interest rates in those 90s were 9 and 9.5% rates. So as many of you know, interest rates are still relatively low, but they're climbing, they're going up, they're rising, but nowhere near 9 and 9.5%. And believe me, I was refinancing a lot of people into fixed rates because they were on adjustable rates back in the 90s. Have purchased over 100 properties throughout my career and did a lot of rehabbing, flipping. I have managed duplexes and fourplexes that we had purchased to rehab and flip. We actually managed ourselves for many years, and did that until about 2001, where my just things deviated for me a bit, and I went into a restaurant and built it from ground up. Had this was a 150 capacity restaurant that we did, and went in there and live entertainment, full liquor license. We're talking, we went big, and did that for about 8 years until I was able to sell that. And pretty much kind of like, the more I talk about this, it's almost like nothing like multifamily, but in a sense, I had to build, and I had to this restaurant needed to generate enough income for me to get the price that I wanted to. So pretty much, similar things that we have to do in multifamily, right? It's based on, the rents and what you're investing into the property to increase those rents is really how you determine the value of the property. So in a sense, I've always been doing something along those lines. And so we did that. And then the last 10, 11 years, I have been focused 100% in just representing clients in both residential and commercial real estate. Now, I purchased my first multifamily deal, and that was 34 doors in Texas in 2015. And really, for me, it was just time. I was done with this rehabbing and flipping. And it was great, don't get me wrong, but it was just a constant turnover, right? Like you're going in, you're buying, you're fixing, putting in all this money, and then you'd get it back and a little more in, 90 days. And so we kept doing that for a while. And it was just like, okay, I thought to myself, okay, there's got to be another way, right? And how can we create that cash flow and just that generational wealth? And I have to tell you that after so many years of just being in real estate and doing the things that I enjoy and doing the things that investors do, I really learned. And throughout those years, I was really thinking of, okay, how can I make my money work for us, right? Where I don't have to necessarily go out and make it every day, but it's a different, because you still have to manage a property, but it's just, how can we make our money work for us? And here are some of the reasons that they were impactful in my life. And you know what? I hope it inspires you guys to do the same thing. So number one, it was cash flow, right? We were looking for a property. We're looking for a way to create cash flow. And in a nutshell, cash flow is just rental income minus all of your expenses. Number two, we were looking for a way to pay down that loan, right? And I thought, well, how great can this be that your tenants are actually paying down your loan? You're not even feeling it. And you're running this property, and those rental, that cash flow that's coming in is paying down the loan. Number three was the appreciation. Now, I'll be very honest with you guys. When I decided to buy this property in 2015, I wasn't sure that this property would appreciate as fast or even as much as it did. I banked on cash flow. I purchased the property on cash flow. And yes, over time and over a long period of time, I figured it would appreciate. Okay, now I went in there and I was very active and aggressive in making sure that we were maximizing the profits in that property. Okay. And number four were tax benefits that we were looking at. And one of them was depreciation, which allows you to expense a portion of that physical structure each year from your taxes, right? And the ability to do a 1031 exchange, which allows you to defer the capital gain taxes. And there is no limit to how many times you can do this. I mean, if there's a deal out there that makes sense and you want a 1031, you want to sell your property and use that capital to invest in another property, you can do a 1031, no limit. So here's a little example of the property that I purchased, and pretty much kind of I'm going to walk you through a couple steps that I think are very important. I'm not sure if all of you know on this call, but if you don't, value add multifamily is the property that I purchased. Okay. Oops, sorry. Now, I have the definition here, and it's simple. It's the strategy involves you're buying the worst property in the best neighborhood, you're increasing its net operating income, and then the value of the property through renovation. And that's exactly what I did. This property was a fixer-upper. It was not being maintained by the current owner. And so pretty much rents were just nothing, right? They weren't being used to their potential. And so when we purchased this property, how I found it, it was on LoopNet. I happened to be in Dallas at that time, and this property popped up. I looked at it. I went over to check it out, and mind you, I had a mentor who had already purchased in Dallas, and I really didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I knew he had done all the research, and Dallas was the place that I was going to go in and invest. And so pretty much, just to kind of make a long story short, we negotiated. So he was willing to, I asked him if he'd be willing to carry a note, seller finance. So we purchased the property for $850,000. I gave a $350 down payment, and he carried a note for 2 years for the balance. So this made this whole process of purchasing a little bit easier. I was ready to go through the normal financing, but when you go through a normal finance, like a lender, it's definitely going to be a little bit harder, right? They're going to require or ask you for additional documentation, where here we had agreed, he said yes, and you know what? It was a done deal. Now, it allowed me, these 2 years allowed me to remodel and update the units and increase the rents. That's that value add component. So what happened is by year 2, I was able to refinance this property. It had appraised for almost double of what I paid at 1.6. It allowed me to pretty much cash out, get all my money back, and I have zero invested in this property. And today's value of this property is 2.7, $2.8 million. And the way the market looks, it could even be worth more. So right here, this is a perfect example of a value add opportunity. In today's market, it might be difficult to find something like this, but they're still out there. You're just going to have to go through a lot more properties to find a good deal. And I know a lot of people that are going through hundreds to find that one deal. So this right here just kind of gives you guys an example of my property. And then here's a picture. There's one building, which has 24 units, one bedroom, one bath. And then you have another building that has 10 units, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bath. So before I go into more information here, any questions so far on what I have what I've said, or any comments, or just anything that you guys are currently maybe struggling, need answers, or want to get some feedback? We're all good? Okay. So today we're
hi.
Yes.
I have a quick question. When you do the remodel on this property, did you have to put your own money in, or you how did you get the money to do the
Yeah.
remodel?
So I had the money. We had a property, we had a single family residence in California that I had rented out during the this is the short sale period. People were just short selling their homes, and property values had just dropped so much. And my husband and I chose to hang on to the property, and we just rented it for as much. It was I would say it was a higher end property. We were able to get really good rent on it, and our out of pocket expense was minimal. But we knew that when prices kind of bounced back and the market changed, that it wouldn't have been a bad idea for us, even with a small out of pocket expense on a monthly basis, to keep this property. So we kept it. And when the time came, we sold it, and we made some really good money from this property. But we didn't want to invest in single family. That's where it gave us time. I prepared. I mean, it took about 5 years for me to actually pull the trigger to buy multifamily. So that goal was there. So that's why it's important that if you guys want to buy multifamily, and if that's the goal, that you decide, okay, what do you need to do between now and year 5 to be ready to do that? And so I knew I had some investment properties. I also had bought some flips, right? I'm active. I'm an active real estate agent. So I was, prospecting. I'm helping clients. A lot of clients were literally losing their homes, and there were opportunities there where maybe I couldn't buy them all, but there were other people that could buy them. And it was just it was a time in the market where I had opportunities to buy some of these investment properties, generate and just create some capital, and then put it aside, saved it, because I knew I had this goal to buy multifamily. And honestly, we had the money. I had enough to give the seller his down payment, and I had another $200,000 to $300,000 to go in there and do the work. I didn't need a loan. I didn't need a construction loan.
Okay.
So, the best thing that I could say is start planning And I don't know, are you an investor yourself? Have you invested in either, I would say 2 to 4 units or single family residence?
No, not yet. I'm actually residential, but I'm also a licensed realtor as well. So
Oh, okay. And what area do you work in?
I'm actually in Georgia.
Okay. So I mean, it's if you're a realtor right now, I think if everybody, I mean, as we all realtors know that the market is shifting, right? There is less inventory, and I think we're all going to have to go back to the basics.
Yeah.
And if you start door knocking, if you start prospecting and you're calling, you're going to come across you're going to find some opportunities. And I think that's probably that was my I guess that was my opportunity, right? I was searching, I was looking, and I was just constantly out there and studying the market. So when this opportunity came about, I was ready. I knew that it was a good opportunity. And all I can say is as long as you're studying the market, as long as you're putting yourself out there and you're working towards that, it'll happen. I mean, believe me, I didn't have the money five years prior to when I purchased it.
Okay.
But I aligned myself properly to be able to have it in that, by year 5.
Okay, got it.
So I mean, it's hard work. I mean, I'm not saying that this was easy. By all means, it was not easy. It was a lot of sacrifice. And, and I just, whatever money I had, I was putting it aside because I knew we were going to need that money for repairs. So it's hard work, but it's not impossible. It can be done.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So, here's just a couple of steps on how to find these multifamily homes. And really, you have to, you've got to put yourself out there and you have to do research. You can't just think that it's gonna, like, this property is gonna pop up and you're ready to buy. Because how do you even know it's worth it, right? So you have to put yourself out there, and I think you have to identify the location where you want to go. And so for me, it was easy. I had a mentor. He had already invested in Dallas, and I'm like, not going to do any more work. I'm going to Dallas. And I spent many trips out there for a couple of weeks at a time. And it was just to become familiar with the different areas, right? You'll learn once you start studying the market, you learn what areas to stay away from, where you want to look in, where there's that growth. I mean, you just start, and then you start talking to agents and you just start talking to different investors, and it just you become a lot more knowledgeable and you feel better about the investment. So I kind of made a list here of some of the places where people are buying multifamily homes. And again, this is, you have to go out there and do the research, and you got to be comfortable with it. But I've listed a couple places here, and that's Chicago, Los Angeles. Yes, the prices are high, but you know what? There's still a lot of activity in California, Baltimore, Detroit, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Miami, and Dallas. Okay, so make a note. Maybe you want to start, digging into those areas and see if there's anything that kind of resonates with you that makes financial sense, and then pick one area that you see the possibilities of it working for you, and just really like focus on that area and just study it as much as you can. You can start looking at like profitable neighborhoods in cities. As you start searching, you want to drive around the neighborhoods. You want to look at, you really want to like just include yourself in there, like be part of it just like you would your neighborhood. I mean, like if you guys were to stop for a moment and you're in your neighborhood and someone says, hey, there's a house on such and such block, the block, you're able to say, you know what, that is a great area. Or you're able to say, you know what, nope, stay away from that area. That's not a good area. And that's the way you want to feel about when you're going to buy investment property. You really have to you got to look at everything. And I think, that's like wherever you decide to invest in real estate, the idea is to get as much information on that neighborhood as possible before you're actually going to purchase. And it's more than just the neighborhood. I mean, we're in multifamily, you're looking at a lot of different things. And again, today's talk is it's not on that specific thing. I have other calls where we break it down, and we're going to look at, what exactly is it that we have to look at. But you want to look at the overall condition of the area. And here's kind of a couple stuff that you want to look at as well when choosing a location. Public parking, right? How much parking does that structure have? School ratings is important if you're looking for multifamily where there's a very good school district. That helps with the value of the property. Attractions and amenities. There's walk scores that you can look into, and also public transportation. Now, sorry. Now, conducting market research manually before buying like your multifamily property it's really time consuming, and at times can be frustrating. I mean, you're like, there's so many numbers and so many things that you need to take into consideration. Now, find different tools, okay, for these neighborhood analysis. And there's effective ways of researching an area. So it'll allow you guys to, just as a real estate investor, to identify neighborhoods with like lowest listing prices and highest rental income, cash on cash returns, and occupancy rate. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever looked at, but Mash Visors, they have a real estate, it's called a heat map and analytics, and it'll direct you. It gives you super extensive detail about the area, okay? And it includes such things as like the median price, cash on cash return, occupancy rate, rental strategies, cap rates, all these important things that you need to do, right? You've got to analyze all of this in order to make a decision on whether or not you're going to buy a particular multifamily property. So all this information here, a lot of times we do it, let's say manually, right? Where the seller will provide T12s, the sellers will provide all their data, and we'll take that and you got to kind of scrub it, and you got to go through it, and you got to analyze it. But then there's also ways of like tools that you can go in and search, right, to just kind of confirm what you've analyzed, if that makes any sense, right? You're confirming now with exterior information that, okay, these numbers do make sense, or it supports, the value that you're purchasing this multifamily is supported with all the other exterior analytics that you're using to make a solid decision. Does that make sense? Oops. Now, this is important. You want to narrow down your list of investment properties for sale. Number one, you really have to decide what area you're going to go into, right? And then once you go into that area, you can start using Analytics Investment Property Calculator to really conduct like an investment analysis of the different properties in the area. Okay, and there's 3 calculations that these tools will provide that are really important in order for you guys to make a good solid decision, and that's cash flow, cash on cash return, and the cap rate that multifamily property produces. Okay. Now, based on real estate comps, all right, and comparables, comps is very different in multifamily. The investment property calculator will also provide estimates of rental income and expenses specific to rental properties. So you can yourself go out and you can visit other multifamily or apartment complexes near the property that you might be interested in purchasing, and you want to find out what first of all, how many bedrooms do they have, units, how many bedrooms, square footage, what are the amenities, everything that you can get. That way you can now use that specifically to compare if it makes financial sense with the property that you're interested in purchasing. In addition to all these other analytics or just different calculators that you can find out there, at the end of the day, you still have to go out of your way to go and visit, because you become familiar, because you now are actually visiting another property. You're looking at its condition. You're looking at, you may want to take a tour of that unit to see, well, if the property that you're buying needs investment, well, now what kind of where you have to be to maybe increase the rent on the unit, or are you going to surpass the, maybe you want to go higher and it may not warrant, or you may not be able to get that rent. So that's why it's important that you really have to do the research and the analytics and everything that you guys are using in this. It's got to make sense at the end of the day. And there's no better lesson, or there's no better way to learn this than actually going out there and getting yourself involved and looking at all these properties and comparing these properties. I mean, if there's realtors on this call, I mean, better, right? If we are going to sell a property, or even we're representing a buyer, and we know the area, we know the values, we're able to guide our clients, right, in the direction of, hey, listen, I've studied the market, I know what the prices of homes in this area are, and we can guide them. It's same thing. If you study the multifamily property that you're going to buy, or the area you're going to buy, and you become familiar with it, when an opportunity comes up, you will snatch it because you've done the work, you're ready. So the next step is really finding a mortgage lender that's going to help you with the loan, right? That's if you're not able to get a seller finance. So you apply. Normally, right now, you'll find loans with terms as little as 5, 7 year, 10 years. Interest rates, you want to choose a lender that's competitive with the interest rates for your purchase on the multifamily property. You want to make sure that the lender also works in the state that you're possibly looking to purchase. So, I'm in California. I purchased in Texas. A lot of people are buying out of state. So you want to make sure you're working with a lender that will service that area that you're interested in. Property conditions, right? You want to make sure, for example, if that multifamily is distressed, you want to make sure if the lender offers additional financing for like a rehab loan. And then you also want to make sure customer service, that the lender is easily accessible via chat or phone or email, whatever it is, so that you can go through this process a lot smoother, because it is a hard process. And so you want to make sure that these things are all there, and you're covered, and you feel comfortable, and you've got a good communication with the lender so that things just kind of go smoothly. Any questions so far? We're all good? Okay. Let me just look at the, it's a direct message. Okay. All right. All right, so number 4, you want to inspect the multifamily property. So before buying your multifamily property, you need to conduct a thorough inspection of the property. I mean, I know I've mentioned this before on other calls, but the inspection is just crucial. You hire a professional inspector and you want to focus on structure. You want to focus on foundation, heating and air systems. These are all big ticket items. Windows, floors, ceilings, doors, roof, plumbing, and electrical wiring. Okay. And just in case, and it's going to be based on, this is all based on, the property, not all properties, but if you might want to bring in additional inspections for mold, radon, or pests. Very important, right? Because you want to know how, you need to know how intense this is going to be so that your numbers align and that you're coming in at the right number, because you're going to have to invest a lot more money into the property, right? For fixing it and to bringing it up to maybe just normal market standards. So it's all got to make sense. And pretty much also, this is an opportunity where if there are some big ticket items that need to be addressed, well, this is when you can negotiate with the seller and try to get them to credit you. And usually that's what they do. They try to credit you. You negotiate a credit for whatever repairs are needed. All right. And then, I'm kind of just walking you guys through some steps. Obviously, they're a lot more detailed, but there isn't enough time to go through it on this particular call. But, just kind of giving you an idea of, when buying a multifamily investment property, kind of the main steps to look over. And here is like, okay, so you're going to make an offer. Now we're going to close, right? So making an offer, you want to work with an experienced real estate agent, someone that's really protecting your interest, who's going to provide you with the different types of reports that are required or needed on your end so that you're protected, and really is there to negotiate for you when it comes time to negotiate. Okay. Once the seller accepts the offer, then it's just really, it's like, let's close the deal, right? Real estate agents usually will provide all the documentation and everything that you need to sign, and it's actually done through title company. And a lot of times it's done via DocuSign and phone calls. So it's a really, really simple process. And, but your escrow, your due diligence period, you're looking at least, 60 day is pretty normal. As long as, and I know, like, I can tell you just a few months ago, appraisers were taking like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to finish the reports. So, just take all that into consideration. But once you get to the offer and once you're ready, you've negotiated stuff, the closing part is just a lot easier. And then, it's not an easy process. Buying multifamily can be consuming. It's stressful, but I can tell you, and I'm living proof of it, that it can be very profitable when it's done correctly. And so I am a firm believer that, educating yourself, attending events like this, or calls, or just anything that has to do with multifamily and with what you're doing is just critical. And it's going to give you guys that upper edge when you're ready, like when the time comes and you're like, okay, I've decided I'm ready, I'm going to pull the trigger, that you're going to be able to do this, just from having all the information and that you've finally kind of like picked your area and you've studied the market and you feel comfortable enough to go in there. So that's what I have for today. Let me stop sharing this and, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, I know I talked a lot. So,
Hey,
hi.
sorry. Hey,
Hi.
Annabelle, Sean. Hey, I sent you that message as a direct DM, but if you want to talk about it amongst the class and if anybody wants
Yeah.
to jump in on it, I'd be more than willing to be a case
Why don't
study.
you share it? Why don't you share the info?
Okay. As you guys can tell, I'm a photographer and I was on one of the caravans and a agent talked about, and he was fairly vague on it, but just because the MLS folks were on and listening in the fair compliance thing, but he's got a triplex potentially coming in the next couple of months. Right now, the owner's talking about that they're going to strip it down to basically 2x4s and rebuild it because it's vacant in bad shape. It is in a very up and coming city down here in San Diego, where there are a lot of 7-digit homes. I mean, it's not Rancho Santa Fe or La Jolla, but it's, how do I say it? It's folks that mid-level, mid to high level income want to live when they don't want to be, in the city. They want to be in the country, but it's not really country. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So a lot of, $1, $2, and $3 million houses in the zip code. Yeah. So I'm just kind of wondering, I know there's a lot of people, Bill's calls and everybody's like, if you don't have the money, don't let that stop you. So I'm going to call this agent and just what are the questions I need to ask him so that when I go find a money person, I've got more than just a big dopey puppy answer like I've got right now.
Right. So, okay. So this property is going to come on the market.
Yep. And for a change, I'm ahead of the bell curve.
Okay. Okay. And, it needs to be completely redone.
It needs a significant rehab is what I took from it.
Did it have, have you seen have you seen the property? Oh, you haven't. Okay. Well, I think you need to find, and it's vacant. So is the home, is the owner, is he an out-of-state owner? Does the owner live?
The owner is in town, but he's not on site.
Okay. So is the owner an investor? Is this something that, he might want to do himself? Or maybe he'll partner up with someone. Maybe he's got the money and he wants someone to come in and do the work.
What the impression I got from the life cycle as it was presented is the owner is lining up construction people that they are going to rehab it. And then when it's rehabbed and at top market dollar this summer, they want to sell it. I'm wondering if I can find people and put together a team that we can swoop and still give the homeowner enough profit that where he's happy, but there's enough for us, and conversely go forth. And I realize there's a whole lot of marketing that needs to be done, and I'm an hour out of finding this out.
I think, to be honest with you, I think here's what I would do. First, I talk to the agent. She obviously has an agent, right? So I would talk to the agent and I would say, what's the seller looking for, right? Mm-hmm. Does he actually want to do the work, or would he rather just walk away with a good offer? Maybe he takes a little cut, right? Because he's not doing the work. Walk away with a good offer, cash, closing in 10 days.
Yeah.
And if he says, I don't know, let me talk to him, yeah, maybe he'd consider something like that, then you would have to try to get, okay, well, what do you ask the agent? Because the agent's going to know the agent and that seller are talking. What's that price? What price is he looking for? Mm-hmm. Right? Well, you do your comps, and if it does make sense, where you could come in with an I mean, you're obviously, you don't have the money, you got to bring in, you got to bring someone that has the money, right? And you work out a deal with that person, but you want to find out, first of all, what's his bottom line if he has no work to do to the property? Like, what would he be willing to walk away with right now, cash in his hands of, you know, you can close it in 10 days. What would his number be? That way, you now know what his number is. You run the comps, and if there's sufficient room, right, after you're running the comps for this remodel and then to sell, and it makes sense for you to invest, then you're not going to have a problem finding an investor. I mean, because there has to be enough, you know, meat in the bone for someone to come in.
Yeah.
So I think find out first thing is find out what does the seller want to do? Does he really want to rehab and go through all of that? Or is he looking, would he take like an all cash closing in 10-day offer?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track.
Yeah, no, you're on the right track. We need to know what the seller wants to do. And then once we know what the seller wants to do, we figure a way, right? We work backwards, and then we just figure a way to get him that, as long as it makes financial sense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Are we all good? Anybody in the process of purchasing multifamily right now or looking to get involved in multifamily? That's important. I need to know. Come on, there's many of you here. Someone here has to be a multifamily owner.
Not multi. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. All right. Well, you'll get there. You'll get there. Anybody else on this call? Multifamily. That's the thing. Or are you anybody 2 to 4 units? No 2 to 4 units? Okay. What about single family residence rental?
I have
No?
one.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
Great. And where at?
In Georgia.
Okay. Very good. So have you thought of maybe selling that?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Well,
Nope. That was actually my first property I purchased at 19. So and
okay.
now, I've been renting it out for the past 12 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just consider, because, you know, market's so great. It's a good opportunity to cash out and maybe buy yourself a duplex or buy
Right.
yourself, you know, 4 units and grow and just grow that.
Right.
You'll probably make more money, but
Yeah.
your emotional, I mean, I think I sense that emotional attachment, right? That was your first property.
Yeah.
And you don't want to let it go.
Well, not necessarily, but I am looking into buying multifamily, but just not selling that.
Right. No, that's okay. I mean, you can refi, cash out, use money from there and buy something else.
Yeah, because I was thinking about doing that on my current home that I have now, because
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty much 80% paid off. So yeah, I could totally refi and do cash out and then go purchase some things.
Absolutely. Or at least align yourself and get ready for maybe, I mean, who knows? Nobody knows where the market's going to go, if prices still continue to go up or if they're, level off. We don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
you hear mixed information, but yeah, I mean, what I've heard from a lot of coaches and trainers and in the multifamily space is that single family is not the way to create that that generational wealth. It's done in multifamily, and so if you have single family, you want to sell that, you want to use those proceeds and invest them in multifamily, and then just grow your multifamily, right? So if you have 4, then it's then you want to do 8, and then you want to do 10, and then you want to just grow because that's where the money's at. I mean, and really my example there is kind of what I went through when I purchased, right? It was 850, and I mean, it almost 4 times the value there. And I don't think that would have ever been able to double, triple, or even quadruple my money on a single family. So I don't know, just kind of food for thought, Lisa.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Any other comments? Well, I wanted to share if there's any local to LA area, California, if there's any local real estate agents, we are having an incredible event in the city of Diamond Bar at the Holiday Inn. It's agents helping agents is our tagline. We have some incredible agents, keynote speakers that will be talking about how to thrive in this real estate transition market that we're entering. Top producing agents, they're, one of them closed 60 transactions last year, and high-end market in San Diego, and will be sharing best practices with us. And we also have a Tony Robbins trainer coach that will be talking about mindset. I think this next year, we're going to need a very strong mindset to get through in our business and just in this new real estate transition market. So if any of you are interested in attending, the link is on the chat. Join us. Would love to meet you guys there. And I don't know, if no one has any other questions, I will shut down the call, and I'll see you guys next week. All right. Very good. Take care. Have a great week, successful week out there, and we'll see you all.